you should see how those two themes are interlocked when you have a little peripheral search for the Beaverbrook. Yeah, the Beaverbrook is the propagandist through both wars. He's a Canadian citizen. He is a profiteer in the munitions industry. And what I've got here is a list of interlocks to Sir Jackie Stewart. Yeah, you remember him? The old Scotsman that used to ride around. Yeah, and he's still got holdings as a director in the champagne companies, but the links to Beaverbrook and the Aitken Nazi dynasties are massive, and it links into the elite papers that are run in Britain, like the Telegraph. I'm going to run you quickly through this and hope that my computer next door has rekindled after it was crashed in the last video, because what's on there is absolutely stunning. That's the Evelyn de Rothschilds links to other fascist vents in this country, and it is absolutely shocking. I've discovered in the series of inquiries that there are companies set up in Scotland run by the Aitkins, which are the Beaverbrooks, which are the Formula 1 manipulators. They are on the boards with the Ogilvy women of companies called the Scottish Bureau of Investigation, and that is to asset stripped impoverished homes who can no longer pay their bills because the fascists are in control. Last night I watched the Schindler's List film. Everything that is happening in Britain now is equivalent to what was happening when the Third Reich were manipulating all of the policies in Poland, in Austria, in Germany, and all of it is a vicious replay of that. So what you've got here is a massive fraud that takes money from impoverished people and sends them from their homes into debt and onto the streets. And what you've got run by the same people under the thrall of Aitken, who is at the head of Formula 1 and is the surviving member of the Beaverbrook dynasty. I've found directory registrations for both Aitken and Beaverbrook this evening, and they're quite shocking, because he's running the asset stripping of this, but he's also running the Lloyds Scotland TSB toxic debt pools, and they are billions and billions of pounds in debt, and the ordinary people cannot pay their bills because the treasury is being asset stripped by the methods we talk about daily. Okay, I'll shut that one down so the video I made earlier can upload. So there's Jackie Stewart, registered address 18 Grosvenor Gardens, London, England. That's the Grosvenors, that's the Duke of Westminster's family, the richest bloodline in Britain in the 1970s and the 80s. Yeah, the boss at the British Legion, with a massive litigation fund so that they can ward off accusations of war crimes. Yeah, Sir Jackie Stewart. You should see the old timers who are still at the pot. So there's his interests in champagne and the French connection, and we've got a whole list of previous directors that are involved in Formula 1 through, you know, decade after decade. So there's the Campbells of Scotland that were the land speed records, and the Campbells died in an attempt to get the over water speed records. Yeah, and what you've got, Hennessy's, Montesquieu's, Hallidan, De Warren's, Woodruff's, Sir Jackie Stewart, Viscount David George Staveley Marchwood, David Bell, McCarthy Hallidan, Pensec, Aston Martin. You remember them? The Bond Fleming criminals and war criminals and financial fraudsters and profiteers in both sides in every war. What kind of car did James Bond ponce around in, with the guns that came out of the just below the registration number, which no doubt would be Masonic. Okay, and so that's the Aston Martin Lagonda Group Limited, registered, resigned since 31st of the 12th 1996. All the Arab names, all the countries that are associated with fascism and elitism and have massive protests when the Grand Prix comes to call, are named here. Al-Masulam, Adnan Al-Nisif, Ali Abdallah Abu El-Sud, Mahmoud Sami Mohammed, Ali El-Sayed, Najib Al-Humaydi, Reza Mohammed Yusuf Al-Rumi. These are the same people that are accused of the beheadings. Yeah. Everything is twisted, and everything you read in the papers, as you'll see from the Telegraph boardroom, is about fascism and stealing from the ordinary punters. Current secretary name Michael Francis Marecki. Previous secretaries and directors, a Trotman, famous name. Pender Richards, another cover for the Pender and the paedophilia. Nassers, you remember them? Executed in Egypt. Oldfields in the pop music sector. Cosgroves, previous secretaries. Osgoods, McClintocks, Pearsons. Yeah, look at the numbers. Not many of them are stable and financially viable after these thugs get their hands on it. Red Bull Racing Limited. Now Red Bull is an interesting project. It's a drink, recreational drink for youngsters that is filled with potassium. Now I'm a professor of pharmacology, and I know the intake of too much potassium is really dangerous for our body. That is how they kill the patients on death row. They inject potassium at high concentrations so that your heart stops beating really quickly. And when my granny was my granny and an elder at the Church of Scotland, she used to warn me about drinking seawater. Red Bull's products are just the same as seawater, full of potassium, highly toxic, really bad for you, but marketed now by the fascists that run the world and love to kill people using all sorts of devious methods. There's another Horner, but it's not my friend from the Butlins sector this time. Leighton's secretaries, 177 of 286 crashed. Previous secretaries: Pocock's, John Young Stewart, Armstrong's, Cosgroves again, Sir John, Shakespeare, Alison. Isn't that romantic that you can have fast cars and literary experts in the same boardroom? Professor Richard Parry Jones. Hallmark secretaries, 31,700 of the 32,000 crashed, appointed in 1995. A Whitney, a very dubious title. That's the Prime Minister's constituency, and the reason behind the killing of Whitney Houston, if she was actually killed. Auto Torque Limited. No very famous names there, just a few minor criminals. Sir Jackie. Auto Torque Holdings Limited. Couple of Jacksons, like Andrew Jackson, who came wandering over the hill in the song about Lydia, sung by the Marx Brothers, who are Freemasons and are the old day equivalent of Ali G. make a joke about every crime that is committed and cover up with your own name, that's Ali G. Baron Cohen, the frauds in the Rothschild empire and the fact that the Cohens are the high priests of Israel since the 2nd chapter in the Christian Bible, replayed in the Torah and all of the Jewish texts. It is all a fraud at the citizens and worshippers' expense. Global Beach Group Limited, they love to take over the elite resort. British Racing Drivers Club Limited, this is where all the veterans reside. You remember the Titchmarsh? My mother-in-law used to fancy Alan Titchmarsh, who does the elite gardening sector. Yeah, Mr. Ian Henry Titchmarsh, Jason Plato, previous directors and set Lord Thomas, Alexander Hesketh, Mr. Andrew William McAlpine, Mr. Damon Graham Devereux Hill. Didn't he flee like Lord Lucan at one point? Or did he help Lord Lucan to escape? Yeah. The Damon is a horror story and it is linked to hell. And the devil concept. Warwick's Trumans, Donald Frederick Truman, Edward Nelson, heroic figures all. Some of them must be quite ancient now. Mr. John Surtees, unless that is their children or their, what we call in the borders, ballop relations. Jonathan Peter Baker, Mark Blundell, relatively modern one, Martin John Brundle, Mr. Maxwell William Beaverbrook. 8 of 24 companies. He's a very interesting character. He's been in the news a lot since I came home from New Zealand, and a lot of the things that he does are overt covers for their financial crimes. That's the inclusion of having orgies dressed up as Nazis. Those are their minor crimes. The alliance with the Nazis was a warmongering, genocidal, profiteering plot. The orgies are just a sideshow, like all of the things that we get with Monica Lewinsky and the woman in the Watford region that got her knickers off because we were involved in the Cold War with the Russians, yeah, and we were keeping the prices really high at the forecourt for the ordinary punters. That's Christine Keeler. She lived in Raisbury where they had the massive floods last year, 2014. The 100-year anniversary of the World War that they would love to have replayed, but were it for the activities of unpaid fraud researchers. Mr. Nicholas Andrew Whale, maybe the London Whale, he's got lots of business interests. Hopkirk, Gethin, Robert Brooks, Robert Kenneth Terrell, Robert McGregor Innes Ireland, Roger Albert Clarks. Maybe like the Borders heroes, there's another registration for a Stuart Clark elsewhere in the fascist directorships. Mr. Thomas Edward Brodie Sopwith. That's the ones that made the biplanes in World War I, and Beaverbrook was in charge of selling them to the Allied countries, allied entirely with the Axis countries in profiteering. Thomas Peregrine Barnard, another Lord of the Rings joke. Tony Jardine, Sir Jackie Stewart, the Honourable Gerald David Lascelles. Poulins and Colvilles, motorsport cafes. If you go to Formula 1 and you've got the dosh to get a ticket, it must be really expensive to get a cup of coffee there. Mr. Paul Evans Stewart, friend of the family and Sir Jackie, run the coffee house. Prospect Secretaries Limited, Company Director Limited, 196,000 of 205,000 crashed. They were appointed and they worked for 1 day on the 13th of October in 1998. The Armstrong people are strongly affiliated with the BBC, and when I went to Churchill's gift from the nation for being a mercenary army leader over centuries, the Churchill man, that is the gift to the nation that is Blenheim, the Armstrongs were in the car park and they were looking ever so nervous. That's the Armstrong that presents the quiz programmes on the tellies. Temple Secretaries Limited, Company Director Limited, 200,000 crashes. Temple Secretaries Limited, 200,000 crashes, appointed for the same day in 1998 with the Armstrong character. Stuart Ventures, another romantic name north of the border in Scotland. Yeah, Bonnie Prince Charlie's kind. Everything is a theft project, and look at Temple Secretaries, their names crop up again. Company Directors Limited, 200,000 crashes. Yeah, so no reason not to indulge in an orgy fueled by massive bottles of champagne that are shaken around by the winners of the Grand Prix and are cast all across the floor of the venue. That costs a fortune, and every time they have protests they use weapons or activist hoses to get rid of the protesters that cannot afford a loaf of bread. Okay, and all of these meetings are hosted in the Côte d'Azur, in places where the elites have their parties and have their weddings. And when Winston Churchill was celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary, it was hosted in the Côte d'Azur, right next door to the Monaco course, and that was in the Villa Caponica. It's massive. These are the warmongers that take the world to war again and again and again, and my lead-in to those list of companies was through, I think, so that's Jackie Stewart, listed as a director, year of birth 1939, 908 996010, 18 Grosvenor Gardens, London. Okay, he's only got 80 million assets and he's got only current liabilities of 59 million. That means he's solvent, unlike the people from this sector that run the TSB banking toxic debt pool. It is massive. Let's see if we can find it. Sir Jackie Stewart, OBE. Yeah, he's got his OBE and his knighthood. Okay, he's got a couple of registered addresses, Southwest 1 and Southwest 3, in the epicentre of the London frauds. And he's got another registered address, Jack Stewart Clark, if that is him, year of birth 1929, and that is in Cowden in Kent. Here we go. TSB Bank PLC, Sir Jack Stewart Clark, Sir Ronald Thomas Stewart Macpherson, Miss Julia Caroline Ogilvy. That's the Ogilvies that are in league with the pharma frauds and the British monarchies. Okay. Yeah, we've got Rice's, we've got Peebles's, that's the Tweedsmuir region, we've got Fullerton's, Bolton's, Macpherson, Ferguson's. The Fergusons are the Governor Generals in New Zealand. I met them. The Ferguson broke his ankle off the corner of the pavement. That was not an accident. Okay, and they are Governor Generals for several generations. Like the people who are the Poinders, my local rugby club stadium is called Poinder Park. We are tied into links to New Zealand, and the people that came to my local agricultural fair tell me that they were local teachers, but they're also part of the intel services, and that's the way John Key runs his country now. That's the .com project. And the people that were the parents of that man were rugby internationals for Scotland, like Norman Pender, played for the same club. Gavin John Norman Gemmell, another one of the Celtic football players. Mr. Ernest Hume Murray, couple of villainous names there. Hume, that's the Hume Bridge in Sarajevo where the Archduke was killed, and Murray, that is the criminal that has asset stripped Rangers a couple of times, runs Aberdeen Asset Management, and has all of his parent companies in New Zealand, in Dunedin, for tax evasion reasons. Susan Elizabeth Crichton, the names of the Duke of Westminster's spouses a couple of generations back. Crichton House is right next door to Pathhead, and that is right next door to one of the Duke of Westminster's elite estates. And it's got the Spoken Wheel pub, the wagon model, yet the wagon wheel model that is the icon for the Isle of Man tax haven, and it's just exactly the same as the rays of the sun, and that is why they chose the name The Sun for Murdoch's paper. Okay, so there's the Ogilvy woman, 13 holdings. She bailed out in 2010, which was a year after I came home from New Zealand, and round about the time I started to become a fraud researcher. Okay, it's amazing. It's amazing the grandiosity of it, and when you see what their actual state of finance is, and you see that members of these boards are joining that company to persecute people who cannot pay their bills because of the fraud. They lose their home, they lose everything they own, they lose access to their own children, because what they are doing is just trying to survive on the deal that our government give them. So TSB Bank, let's go to the front page for that. There we go. Look at it. It is shocking. TSB Bank PLC, SCO 95237, registered address Henry Duncan House, 120 George Street, Edinburgh, EH2 4LH. That's where I had my bank account. I have to go to George Street to withdraw money from my Co-op bank account. The Co-op pledged to make the banks available on all of the British high streets, but instead they put the money into the Lloyds Verde project, and the assets stripped entirely all of the Co-op banks, and the rate of return in savings account for the Co-op bank now is 0.05%, the same as the bank rate. Only the elites get the benefits of any of the financial services products now. Right, look at their toxic debt pool. It is fucking shocking. They've got 200 million cash. They have a net worth of 1.2 billion. They have that is 6 billion assets, but their liabilities are 23 billion. So that is the toxic debt pool that the elites of our country have, and they're able to acquire solvent banks, solvent organisations, and then persecute the people who are in a tiny debt problem because the energy prices are run by one of 100 different PONZI scams in our vicious country. Okay, 223 billion pounds in debt, and they are then asset stripping the innocents with a company that looks as if it is part of British policing. They are just a cabal of mafias. Okay, and get into the other room and see if we've still got the other. Oh no, I've promised to tell you about how the media cover all of these things. So let's have a look at the Telegraph Media Group Limited and look at the names that we have here. All of the usual suspects are have their mugshots on display. This is Sir Evelyn de Rothschild's interlocks. We talked about him briefly the other day, and it could be Evelyn de Rothschild, and he might wear crotchless pants as part of the gimmicks so that he can participate in the orgies with the Aitkins and the Beaverbrooks. Yeah, everything they do is a joke against the people. Telegraph Media Group Limited. It does not give you the registration address for that, but let me just reel off. Aidan Stewart Barclay, Finbar Patrick Ronayne, Howard Miles Barclay, Toohill Kent Mowatts, Telegraph Secretarial Services Limited, Lord King of Wartnaby, that could be Mervyn or one of his relatives, Lord Rawlinson of U. Peter Anthony Grayson Rawlinson, Mr. Andrew Stephen Boyer Knight. Let's go down till we find some big ones. Mr. Conrad Moffat Black, Mr. Leonard Milton Sanderson, maybe not Lord Sanderson of Bowden's kind. Mr. Max Hastings, he's the editor at one of the other papers. He fishes on the River Tweed with the cabal of criminals that include Lord Sanderson of Bowden, who asks me to kill fish on the River Tweed during the embargo on killing the fish, and he is Lord Sanderson of Bowden, the man who negotiates Mrs. Thatcher's fish quotas out of Europe and accuses the Spaniards of being corrupted. Mr. Patrick Joseph Dominic Cook, Mr. Brian Healy, Peter Neville Buckley, Mr. Rupert Nicholas Hambro, a massive financial emperor. 51 of his 76 companies crashed. Mr. Simon Stephen Tucker, the big banking dynasties. When I started to write about fraud to the New Zealand professors at Otago, who include a Barclay, one of the first to pull out of my mailing list was Professor Tucker from the pharmacy building, and he and the chemists nominated me cynically for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry the year that they booted me out, because I'm the most innocent professor on the globe, with the possible exception of Jim Fetzer. Okay, but I'm able to reveal the religious fraud. Jim Fetzer does not have the physical status to do that. Okay, I'm hoping to talk to him again soon, and that he's recovered from his operation. The week which was Remembrance Sunday, that he would not let me talk about the religious fraud, but did not realise that I was making a video of everything that he thought was too sensational to release. Okay, Sir James Michael Goldsmith. In Germany that's called Goldsmith. 3 of the 3 that he has run crashed between 1992 and 1993. The Honourable Jeremy Wyndham Deeds, the Honourable Raymond George Hardenborough Seats, the Honourable Paul Desmarais, the Honourable Raymond George Hardenberg Seats again. Okay, 2 roles, director and secretary, overlapping. It's not a very nice thing to do, but they have no shame. The Right Honourable, and this is one of the brutalisation of Ireland characters, I believe. Oh, there's a whole load of Lords: Hartwell, King of Warrnambool, Honourable Lord Carrington, I believe he was the Secretary for Ireland during its brutalisation, when General Sir Mike Jackson was serving and killing people there on Bloody Sunday. That's the General Sir Mike Jackson who later became the head of NATO's armies in the Balkans and in Iraq, and brutalised all of those places, and brags on Hansard about how much he can earn beyond retirement in the private security company, and he's registered in the private security company with Rebecca Brooks, the criminal. The Right Honourable Lord Rawlinson of Ewell, the Right Honourable Lord Swaithling, the Right Honourable Peter Alexander Rupert Carrington, same man responsible for Ireland, like the head of the Conservative Party, Michael Ancram, who's just about to close our parish church because I worship there and I reveal everything that the Pope does to his people. And in the genocides, in the Caravan of Death and the Operation Condor killings in Latin America, when he was giving confession to the tank commanders, the Right Honourable the Visco Cranbourne, the Right Honourable Viscount John Seymour, Mr. Alan John Davis, Mr. Anthony Mervyn Rentoul, Mrs. Sally Jane Griffiths. 134 of 157 crashed. Right then, I'm going to stop there. If you want to see who else is interlocked to the cross-dressing Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, I don't know whether it's male or female, I don't know whether it has bits like Mrs. Simpson, but you need to look at the interlocks. These are the owners of the whole world, and this is the free press in inverted commas in Britain. It's a really posh paper, the Telegraph. Yeah, and they have every reason to write about things that are trivial, because nothing that they do is revealed to the people. Right then, let's see if the other crimes on the other computer next door are still open. I doubt very much that it will be. If not, I'm just going to sign off and have an early night. I will reopen it again tomorrow morning and I will reveal everything. More about the Hambros, more about the links of the Hambros to the SOE in World War II, more about the links to the Flemings and all of their corrupted links which took me into the Grand Prix sector in the first place. Okay, so let's see. Oh, it may still be open. It's a miracle. And we're almost through to the Sabbath already. This is the Jewish Sabbath today, and Scotland have lost to Italy in a pre-planned media scam that is just typical of the way our country is run now. And when you hear the local punters in the public bar in Scotland covering up the crimes of the genocides and the war crimes joke at the opening ceremony at the London Olympics, because Scotland is now playing someone who refuses to play on a Sunday. And he's been brought in like the coach from the Anzac region, where the Anzac troops were culled by Winston Churchill, the greatest hero of the working men in that public bar. I need both hands to type in my password. Oh, so it did shut down after all. But somehow or other it's rebooted, and I doubt very much that it will open the sites that we have open, because they're quite embarrassing to the establishment. But let's have a go. All around my heart, the song. Oh, we've got 7 sites open. Let's be quick, because they will crash it again really quickly. This is Australasian Intel that run this computer. It's much more efficient.
river and sent me into the hands of Lord Sanderson of Bowden, the fish killer and the EU quota fish negotiator for Mrs. Thatcher, the owner of the River Tweed. And when I declare that all of the owners of the River Tweed are twisted bastards and are the people that sent the Scottish colonists to the colonies for stealing bread, they immediately changed their mission statement from being the owners of the River Tweed to being interested in the water quality in the River Tweed. And they changed the name of the CEO to John Smith. And if they were in Germany, they would have changed it to Johann Schmidt, like we did in World War II, and we still do in all of the Hogan's Heroes episodes that Bing Crosby made as a war-born profiteer. Isn't it funny? It's really, really gusty out there, and it's pissing down. Okay? That is a meaningless rugby international between Scotland and England. Scotland and Italy. The players for Scotland get paid £200,000 to be flops, and none of the amateur teams can run a second team or can afford a bus. Philippe Henri Edmonds, the French connection again. It's the Philippe spelling is the romantic French version. This is a South African cricketing thug. Okay? Philippe Edmonds holds, he's only got $1 million at the bank. Director overview from 15 Gloucester Place News is from Rhodesia, or whatever it's called now. That's Mugabe's place. Mugabe was re-elected when I began to hit on the Bredenkamp Empire a couple of years ago now. Mugabe is pictured on my website, shaking hands warmly with Prince Charles, whose dad is the land grabber all over sub-Saharan Africa, is the profiteer at the Poppy Fund, is the profiteer at the British Legion, is the profiteer from the narcotics running all over our globe, and he uses the British forces to do that for him. Director ID 900 859 422, born 1951, 15 Gloucester Place News, 33 resigned appointments, 12 appointments at 12 dissolved companies, 5 companies active still, because they are cornered. This man used to own stocks. The house that the Butlands owner now owns, the house that Saracens Rugby Club from South Africa used to dismember the amateur game. And Mandela was also trained in Britain. NRAC Africa Holdings Limited, Capricorn Resources PLC, Central African Gold Limited, Mayfair UK Properties Limited, that's real estate in London, Camek Finance Limited, African Management Services, Philippine Gold Limited, that is likely to be a Richard scam in the Philippines, where we have all of the fraudulent religions and profiteers. Stocks Hotel and Country Club Limited. So his period of ownership there, that's where the bunny girls used to prance around for Victor Lowndes in their silk stockings. And the bunny girls joke is because all of these people are affiliated to the profiteering in World War II, when the bunnies, the rabbits, are associated with Hitler's commanders-in-chief in Operation Winnie the Pooh, which Greg Hallett was killed because he described it. Sweetridge Limited, London Beach Leisure Limited, Edmonds Brothers Contractors Limited, Central African Tantalum Limited, England and Wales Cricket Board Limited. Yeah, that's Ian Botham. He's registered at Exeter with my wife, or someone who uses my wife's fraudulent details. It's Valerie Jane Lees, but she is registered with 3 different birth dates, and the shareholdings are all belong to other directors with the name of Cahill, the Calvary Hill joke, the MI6 killer and the man that runs the SAS. They're involved as fraudulent directors at British Airways, and Ian Botham is one of our country's icons. Fishes on the River Tweed with the Millers on the most expensive beats, that the gypsies are allowed to fish for nothing because the Scottish police do not have the courage to confront anybody with a little bit of spirit. Right then, let's see what the other sites are that are open. When you look at his previous companies, okay, the Grosvenors are the Dukes of Westminster, Plymouth and Exeter Properties Limited. That's where Ian Botham has his stance. Also down there you have the Irish boss at Glasgow Celtic, his family. You've got people that I've worked with in the university and the pharma sector, and that includes the director, who is also a Cahill of Manpower Limited. Manpower was the employer for my wife, and my wife met me when my company was being rendered insolvent and was being taken over by the French connection, Roussel Nuclear. The boss at that company is now on the Forbes rich list, and all of the company's shelves that were closed when we got 40% of my fund taken over by the financial advisors that put my pension into the sector of Edinburgh that is listed on one of those 7 open sites here. Let's see if I can find that. It's on Google Maps, and it's Perth Street. It's really funny. There we go. So we've got there the headquarters in Perth Street, which was mentioned in the video I made yesterday on the Fleming family and all of its holdings and all of its profiteering efforts all over the UK and the tax havens everywhere. Yeah, it's right in the area in Perth Street, which is, let's go back to the map there, back to the map. Let me read out the names of the places that are in the headquarters for the Flemings. In Edinburgh. Yeah, you remember I talked about the PONZI schemes. They've got 3,000 PONZI schemes at least in the first year that we found in the Channel Islands. In the city of Edinburgh, they had one. Each year they released 42 different PONZI schemes that we could find. Okay, and where are they? They're in Perth Street in Edinburgh. And look at the names all around it. You've got the Golden Acre playing fields. That is, I believe, the Heriot's rugby pitch where my teeth still are. St Giles Cathedral, Princess Street Gardens, Edinburgh Castle, the Royal Mile, all the way Scottish Parliament building, which was closed when I came to call, and there is the epicentre, and if we zoom in on that, you'll see what it actually harbours. Keep going. The Standard Life headquarters, the corrupted financial institutions that took over from all of the PONZI shelves that were laundered into Europe and subsidiarised. The pharma has gone the same way. The Edinburgh Academy, Saxe Coburg Place, what else did I spot? Henderson Row, Clarence Street, Cuckoo's Bakery, L'Alba d'Oro, which I believe is the Alba of Gold, Brandon Street, and you've got Teviotdale Place. Everything is associated with all of the stories I've told you. explain to you the bunny girls and the bunny girls' role with the Busby babes on the other side of the Atlantic. And the Busby babes, because Barclay Busby, murders his girlfriends or kills them in car crashes because he's fueled with drink, they have to launch Mark Busby, the Scotsman, into Manchester United. Same with Ferguson. Ferguson is one of the Governor Generals that is guilty of the war crimes jokes in Australia and New Zealand for several decades. I don't know what the point of people did to deserve the GG joke. The GG is the horse in popular culture, and the horse is the icon for the religious fraud. Okay, Burma Imperial Mining and Exploration Company Limited. Oh shit. So this is Philip Edmonds again, cricket player for, I think, England and Rhodesia. Keep forgetting what Rhodesia was called, but I've been neighbours of people from Rhodesia, and they work in pharma. They work with me in that same collapsed company, and they are the people that share the joke about pilgrimages along the Pyrenees with their Irish trips, because they're devout Christians. All of them understand entirely that Christianity is a fraud, and that all of those missions, and they understand also the Hmong people in Vietnam and their role in undermining that country as traitors and infiltrators, like the South African people in the UK. All of them share addresses from public schools where they were trained to steal from the blacks and to persecute them in the pay round, and none of the people that could have ownership of their own countries in Africa have ownership of anything in Africa, and the Chinese get the blame for that, like the Spaniards in the fishing frauds and the EU fish quota incidents. Okay, most of those companies will be virtual product frauds. Okay, Jonathan Hicks, I could go through it again, but let's see what the other open sites are. I've shown you the all around my heart stuff, which is just a joke. I forgot to mention in that video that the links of the mummers, dancers, the people who prance around on the streets of England as the Morris dancers and the Irish equivalents are all just enslaved, and the All Around My Heart song is a vicious joke about the Shakespeare play about Othello, and the music that was written by Rossini to proclaim that the pie, which is the translates in Italian to the feet, which is why we get all the Jesus Christ kissing the feet and the Pope kissing the feet of the Pope issues. It's all a joke about the fact that the pie is the first two initials of the Piso family that wrote the fraud, which is the Christian Bible. Okay, and what you've got here is a series of sexual innuendo connections to the moaning of the women. Let me read what Desdemona sings in the Othello thing, or this is the Shakespearean play. The poor soul sat singing by the sycamore tree, everyone sing the green willow. Now that is what that song is about that I've referred you to for the Morris men, and about taking the boyfriends into the war graves and sending them into exile with the Navy as victims of the press gang or as victims of the draft board. She links to people who are reverends and are associated with the landowners, and when I found them on the directorial listings, it took me through to links in very big cabals with loads of money at the bank, and these are people that are reverends. So I've told you already about the acquiring of hotels that were owned by inmates in Colditz, and if you look on Wikipedia at the inmates on Colditz, you'll find that they're all dukes and duchesses, and all of them have their manservants with them by their sides, and when they get liberated into Britain, many of them get amputations, like Sir David Murray, the thief at Rangers, and all of his elite friends, like the motor racing people that he parties around the world with, as he steals and asset strips in financial frauds and sells Ranger supporters new jerseys every year because he wants the money. He's got it already several times over. He does not pay any tax in any country on the globe, and he's got right next to the Borders Council the golf course and the donkey field. The donkey in the Christian Bible, which was falsified by the Pi and the Piso family, the donkey in the Christian Bible in these elite people's head is Jesus. And isn't that funny? And when they wrote about little Emily running off with Steerforth in the same stories, they would not let people pass the house that Aunt Beth, I can't remember, in the David Copperfield movie, he was a cousin of little Emily and he was in love with her. He got embroiled in girls in the financial services sector, and all of that story is a joke. When they see the donkeys passing by, the people in the house object to that, and all of the same jokes about the religious fraud, the financial services fraud, the globalist project, and all of the corrupted people that ties in. Only the monarchies are not in the David Copperfield story. Yeah, it is sick. Right then, and the fact that the religious vicars in Scotland are now deemed to be the owners of those elite hotels that have been sold off because I live in the same hometown. Yeah, they're visited by people that come and fish the river, like Ian Botham, like Gareth Edwards, like all of those heroic figures that were amateur sportsmen and have become directors at professional rugby clubs, and now the rugby in those countries is pathetic. Yeah, that's why I was playing the videos this morning to my surveillance team of Justin Marshall, one of the spirited people in New Zealand, and one of the people that was prepared to say boo to a goose. Yeah, he was another one of the rugby players like me that never won anything in his rugby career, but he was greatly feared because he feared nothing. Okay, and his director-in-chief, Jock Hobbs, died really young because he, like Michael Lina, and the other guy that is the fat cat that used to be the hooker in the team that won the World Cup, when an academic from Otago University was the captain of the team. I forget the name of the man. He was also a scrum half. He works now in financial services in New Zealand. David, I can't remember what his name was. Plucky little character, but now the whole of the game has been asset stripped by the generation that used to be the amateur greats. That's you, Gareth Edwards. I talk to you on the river, and I talk also to the man who missed the tackle from Northampton, and all of it. Not that man from Northampton who missed the tackle in the climax of the Five Nations Championship, the year it was held at Wembley, played for England. His name was Tim Rodber, and he missed the tackle that allowed the Welsh to win the game, and and the whole thing is just a stitch up. One of the wingers that had the same name as the man that was alleged to have died in the suitcase, that's Gareth Williams. He came out as a poofter after he played for the British Lions, because the man that was alleged to be in the suitcase killed by MI6, Gareth Williams, that man, or a body double for him, actually lives in my town now, and he is Polish, and he talks to me all the time because he realises that his bit part role in these cheap shot frauds that allow the English and the Americans largely to run the whole world as a fraud, that Poland could be freed. And I'm really grateful to those spirited people for making it known that they're interested in freedom and the concept that there are countries that are enslaved by the G8 and the G20 capitalists could really be free, and they could have genuine elections that were not run as scams by the world's profiteers. I'm going to stop now. Let me see if I've covered all of those 7 open websites. Perth Street, the Goldsmiths Company trustee. Oh shit, I missed one. All Around My Hat, Othello Act 4, Scene 3, the moaning of the willowy woman at the foot of the willow. Isn't it romantic and lusty that they can steal and rape with the out and out greed that they have? Let's see what the Goldsmith Company trustees was. Registered address Goldsmiths Hall, Foster Lane, London. Oh my goodness. Okay, now the Goldsmiths, that's Goldsmiths in Germany, is run by 24 directors. This is a link into the Hambros and those massive financial families that include the Duke of Westminster and his children, and their marriages and their remarriages. All of it is largely for cash, but there are some good people in the system, and there are others that I talk to, and they know the power of my campaign and my knowledge base. Okay, that would take us to Lord Stuart Ross Sutherland. That's the Sutherland dynasty at Merton, not at Merton, Oxford, but at Merton the estate. That's the Duchess of Sutherland that sent the colonies to the colonies, the colonists to the colonies, and is a close relative of Lord Leveson of Liverpool. And Liverpool is an epicentre of slavery for hundreds and hundreds of years, since Lord Liverpool was a friend of Muhammad Ali. That is the Jagier in India, and the Jagier is the Rolling Stones lead singer who launches the drug craze and an occasional murder at the concerts, and everything is a scam. Okay, I could name all the names. They've got doctorates, they've got dameships, Dame Lynn Janey Brindley, what else have we got? Mr. David Alfie Edward Raymond Peake. There's a butler, and there's butlers involved in the corruption in the civil service, the war crimes inquests, and in the making of movies about vast tracts of land and killing all of the people in the American Revolution. That's the Gettysburg joke, and Gettysburg is right next door to Monterey, the other Monterey, near Maryland, which is a joke about the religious fraud. Okay, and that is where Mrs. Simpson came from, into the royalty sector, so that they could cover up all of their profiteering crimes in World War II. And this is likely to be a linkage to one of the Fleming boys or girls. It's not gender dependent. They are greedy and genocidal and tax avoidant, every continent they touch for cash. We've got a Pridder, Michael John Wainwright, and the Wainwrights are part of the my favourite movie about haw-haw, hee-haw, thingaby Wainwright. Yeah, the man that returned as an entrepreneurial hero to bail out the building and loan in the movie about sustainable societies in small town America. Mr. Richard Devonish Agata. Almost everybody has cover-ups for their ID in financial fraud in popular culture. Remember Jenny Agata in the acting sector? She might have been in, actually, one of the David Copperfield movies. Mr. Richard Nicholas Fox, Mr. Rupert Nicholas Hambro, Mr. Timothy Bruno Schroeder, Ms. Judith Ann Lau, Professor Richard Lawrence Hemsworth, the Honourable Mark Thomas Bridges, Broadway Directors Limited, Broadway Secretaries Limited, that's the Bunny Girls again, the song and dance sector, Lord Roger Cunliffe, Lord Bruno Lionel Schroeder, Mr. Henry Mark Wyndham, Mr. John Edward Anthony Brinston, Richard Frederick Henry Vanderpump. That could be a comedic joke, or it could be a Germanic link to both sides. Mr. Richard Patrick Tatum Kane, Mr. Scott Anthony Shepherd, and Sir John Edward Victor Rose. Okay, and I'm not really sure why I picked on that one, but maybe it was just because of the Duchess of Sutherland affiliation, but all of it, we could keep going back and see what it led to. Maybe the Church of Scotland Vicars, they've got Zippo in the bank, Lynn Jane Brindley, such a long time since I discovered this trail of criminality or financial fraud that I can't remember what my first search terms were. It could be Evelyn de Rothschild, or it could be the links to the Church of Scotland Vicars. Yeah, the Church of Scotland Vicar who bought the hotel in Kelso, that hotel is actually in the ownership of one of the big four auditors. So it's Rupert Nicholas Hambro, and the interlocks with him. This is his director interlocks. Everything's a joke for them. His registered address, I've told you about the persecution of Mozart by the Freemasons in Austria. So Rupert Nicholas Hambro, director number 907448116, is registered at 183 Mozart Terrace, London, England, SW1 1W8UP. Okay, I will not take you through his interlocks, you can find it for yourself. Rupert Nicholas Hambro, look that up on Company Check. There are dozens and dozens of interlocks. Yeah, we take it back a little bit and we'll see what got us to him in the first place. It's endless. The financial empires take you into... Imran Khan was married to a goldsmith, and Imran Khan is a friend, although he professes to be a rival of Ian Botham's. Imran Khan is brutalised in Pakistan, but he's running for president. He's in league with these people. Immy, some of my Facebook friends call him Immy. Yeah. Rupert Nicholas Hambro. I can't remember what took us into this, and I can't remember the name of the Church of Scotland Vicar, but it's either KPMG or one of the big four, PricewaterhouseCoopers, LLoyds, I forget the name of the other one, but the hotel chains all across that schloss hotel chain empire. The schlosses are where Mrs. Simpson found her safe haven before our divorce came through. So that's the Rothschilds, interlocked with the Goldsmiths and interlocked with the Westminsters in those massive power-broking cabals. Okay, these are the world owners, and what I'm telling you is that the ones that are nasty enough to be the Nazi leaders and the Grand Prix leaders are brazen enough to be stealing and evicting the poor people that are the victims of their financial frauds from their own homes in Scotland. And when I appear in Nicola Sturgeon's headquarters of fraud in Edinburgh with all of those accusations and all of the director numbers of the people that are involved in the Nazi movement and involved with the sending of Scottish people to the colonies for stealing bread in the running of these massive scams. The energy company scam is the biggest of all. I'm going to bring it to its knees, and I've got the support of other people that have got the courage to confront the people. They're being persecuted by the British police, even although we're trying to help the British police keep British police jobs in Britain and keep them local. The project that we have reported last week is that G4S have a very advanced plan now with the help of Stephen House and his criminal colleagues from FETIS and the Metropolitan Police in London and the intel agencies that are all providing profiteers now in the university sector and the intel and the laundering sector. All of them are at the take, and they are going to be brought down by innocent people. And thank you, John Lamont and John Lamont's family and all of the academics that are professors in the Lamont family in New Zealand for having a conscience about the way that you've run the world and being prepared to talk to innocents about taking us out of the crisis without going into World War III. Every morning in the papers we are alleged to have beheading issues, and when you watch the Monty Pythons stoning people, and when you watch The Life of Brian and the window scene, you see just how ludicrous the whole of the running, the whole of our world is. Night night, it's now the Sabbath. Yeah, I'm going my tour round the persecuted parishioners in 3 or 4 denominations again tomorrow morning, and the wind is howling out there, and you can see the raindrops still running down my window as all of these crimes against the people are revealed.